everybody. Welcome back to the show. It's so good to see you today, and I'm glad you stopped by because you're going to be happy you did. I have today Adam Hommey. He is a colleague and becoming a friend fast because he is fun. He's also the creator of the podcast Reach System, and he helps you actually create and launch your podcast to frankly have networking and client attraction and use it as a celebrity expert branding tool. Hey, welcome, Adam.
It's always fun to hang out with you, Jill. It's funny, you and I have actually known each other off and on for about 20 years. First time I met you is when you were in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, when I used to live there, and you were there for another speaking engagement. And while there, you picked up a separate gig speaking at the local ASCD Pittsburgh chapter's monthly event. And I still have my copies of the Guerrilla Publicity books from back then. I know that's like 3 editions ago. Funny how the circles of life bring you together.
I love that. And I love you being on the show now. And I know, you are big on podcasts like we are here together. And you're the wonderful solution provider. And I know that there's an important issue. We'll call it the number one issue that causes people like you, like us, to hesitate to launch a podcast. What do you feel it would be the easily way that they could overcome this? What do you think?
That stops them from launching their show?
Well, it's actually, yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that holds people back is the fear that they're creating a job for themselves, and combined with some uncertainty about how soon does this pay off? How quickly do I monetize? Well, all I can tell you about that is we have had a few clients go through our system where they gained new clients. They closed deals with people they interviewed to be part of their first batch of episodes on launch day. So the deal was already done before the podcast goes live. The magic, as I like to say, the green is in the green room. So that's my answer to that question. As far as creating another job for yourself, you're really not when you're using a very simple, effective, stepwise, cumulative system for ongoing management and development of your show, both in content and in process. And that's part of what we do.
I love that. You just make it easy for people to do this, right, Adam?
Yes.
I love that. But can I ask you, what do you think are a few of the mistakes people make when they're launching podcasts?
The biggest one, and I mean no malice, because I know there are programs out there that do this, and some of them are actually run by friends of mine, so I don't want to be seen as critical. But what you have sometimes are people who will, quote unquote, record an audio and put it up on iTunes and say, look, I have a podcast. Well, first of all, it's not iTunes, it's Apple Podcasts. iTunes is the software, Apple Podcasts is the platform. That's a very common thing. It confuses people right there. And going along with that, when you have that, let's just record a couple things and get a podcast up and say I have a podcast, what happens, unfortunately, is many entrepreneurs and business creators will feel that they've checked off the box. And since they didn't go into it with any strategic plan or goal in mind on how they plan to monetize it and how they plan to use it as a center of influence for their business and branding, it kind of goes directly into what I like to call podcast purgatory, which becomes an endless cycle of continuing to produce episodes or not produce episodes or what have you. But it becomes like a rote process. It becomes you're chopping down trees in the forest, but no one's around to hear them fall.
And that would be podcast purgatory, wouldn't it?
Yes.
I love that. It's a great way to look at it. What can I just say, you've been in this, you've been doing it. I think that's phenomenal. What are some of the results you're seeing that people are gaining through doing podcasting, like in networking and client attraction, and as well as celebrity expert branding? What are you seeing happen?
Right. The first thing I want your listeners to understand is that we hear talk in the podcast world of, well, where do I get more listeners and downloads? And I want to reveal something that I see often, particularly in entrepreneurial podcasts that are managed by owners of small businesses. You may see this podcast that's all over the place. Every time you turn around, there's another episode. Everybody you know wants to be on this show. It has all kinds of publicity around it. But if you looked at its actual back end statistics, basically nobody's tuning in.
Wow.
It's not that the work is not valuable. It's the fact that people are perceiving themselves as being followers, listeners, and viewers of the podcast by scanning the summaries and show notes and feeling they're up to speed on it. But the
Mm,
bottom line is they continue to view that podcast as a source of information for them to help them achieve their goals. And they may go listen to select episodes or sections of episodes when they see a bullet point in the description or a particular subject line or a particular guest that they really want to hear from. So the first thing is don't get overly hung up on listeners and downloads. I tell a story about a friend of mine. He was a client of another part of my business, not the podcast, but he came to me one day and he said, "Hey, Adam, guess what? I built a podcast. Here it is." And I said, "Great. I wish you'd have told me," because the mistake he made, and I'm going to tell the mistake because it's going to illustrate actually the answer to your question, is he simply went to his business website where he sells his products and services and added a section called podcast. Now he's in a very narrow but deep niche where the players in terms of sponsors and advertisers have deep pockets and the target audience is affluent. And out of the blue, he had a potential sponsor come to him and want to give him a 5-digit number simply to be the official sponsor of his podcast for 1 year. And
wow.
all you would have to do is change the logo of the podcast to say brought to you by name of the sponsor, add a commercial, pre-recorded commercial for that sponsor to the beginning and end of each episode, which is part of what our system has our clients do anyway, and put a couple banners on his website that link to this sponsor's products and services for which he was also being given an affiliate link. It fell through because they looked at it and they said, well, we really don't want to put our stuff on the site that you use to sell your own stuff. And he looked at it and he said, well, I don't really want to put your stuff on my site where I'm trying to sell my own stuff either. So I share this with you to illustrate the opportunity that comes that you can find advertisers and sponsors. And particularly if you're in a narrow, deep, affluent niche, listeners and downloads may be the least of what they're concerned with. They're actually more concerned with your reputation with the community that they want to reach.
Right. That
Now,
makes
a couple other results. We have one client who is using her podcast as a leader toward generating interest toward a series that she's producing that they're looking to have placed on Amazon Prime and Netflix. I can't give any more details due to NDA. We have another that's going to be launching at the time of this recording in a couple weeks that is about artificial intelligence in marketing, which is a very hot topic right now.
yeah.
And we also have a client who actually it's Paul Ross, author of Subtle Words That Sell. And he has been working with sales training, influence, persuasion, neurolinguistic programming for the past 30 years. So imagine launching your podcast in that field, sales training, influence, persuasion. And among the first 10 guests that are on your show when you launch it are Dr. Richard Bandler, the co-founder of NLP, Chase Hughes, and Vanessa Van Edwards.
Wow.
The
I love that.
key to reaching folks like that is simply the fact that you can approach them saying, I have a podcast. I'd like to have you on it, because now you're leading with reciprocity. You're giving something.
Yes. Beautiful. I love that, Adam. And I think those are great examples. And how powerful it is. And I know you're the guy to help. And I know that people are going to want to be in touch with you. So may I ask you, how do they do that? And what do you have for our viewers?
Okay, so I'm not sure exactly where, as you listen to me right now, you find yourself toward making the decision that makes the most sense for your business. But depending on where that is, you may want to begin by going to www.thereachsystem.com/resources, where I have information for you on podcast monetization, how to recession-proof your podcast, how to get out of podcast purgatory, and some other resources for you as well. If you have an existing podcast and are looking to just do the fun stuff that really matters to you and or launch a podcast, go to www.thereachsystem.com/solutions. Another way to get to both of them is simply go to www.thereachsystem.com and follow the tabs in the menu. If you want to chat with me, just click the link you'll see there to schedule a call. It's 20 minutes, and mention that you heard about me when you saw me on Joe Lublin's show. And you'll be welcomed with open arms from one Allura to another.
Oh, perfect.
So we should probably just educate your viewers, although I think a lot of them know this. Allura simply means somebody who likes cats. And we both have that in common.
Yes, we do, and we both love cats. And let me just say, Adam spent in the green room showing me his cat, so I love that. And I want to thank you for being on the show today, and appreciate you very much. So thank you.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. I'm honored to be of service, and please have me back. I love doing these.
Oh, thank you. And I want to thank all of you for stopping by. I'm sure you've learned something today. Hey, go check out JillLublin.com so I can support you with all of your marketing and public relations needs. And let's see you next time when you're tuning in for more fun. Keep being kind out there, everyone. See you soon again.